Hey yo, it's the Alpha J Show, the Big 25, huh? At first this was supposed to be the big Animation April ending. I had it all in my head. Now it's the big May ending. It's not that it took me a month to do this, but if you really want to know what delayed a month, I'm sure that you can look back and figure out from the previous episodes on this channel. For those of you who don't know, let me fill you in on a few things. I promise it won't take long. O Entertainment, the genius behind Jimmy Neutron, both the movie and the series as well as the spin-off, Planet Sheen, Ace Ventura, all movies, and Barnyard, both the movie and the series, collaborated with DNA Productions, who also produced Jimmy Neutron as well as the Ant Bully before most of the employees were laid off, decided to do a crossover with Frederator Studios, the people behind Chalk Zone, Fairy Odd Parents, Fanboy and Chum Chum, Adventure Time, and many more stuff, including online stuff. Both shows were absolutely killing the early 2000s. Jimmy Neutron was one of the only shows I know on Nick that used 3D animation as a regular thing. I mean, Barnyard, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Fanboy and Chum Chum also used it, but that was later on. Jimmy Neutron had its own style and charm. Fairy Odd Parents was faster and also not new to movies, having Abracatastrophe in 2003 and Channel Chasers in 2004. In fact, 2004 was a great year for Fairy Odd Parents, 2 movies coming out, even surpassing SpongeBob ratings at one point. Nick even stated it didn't matter what time slot the show was placed in, the ratings would always be very impressive. So putting the number 2 cartoon with rising popularity rivaling the big one, with the number 3 show, which was a big hit on its own, entering its 3rd season, this would be either a giant failure or a big success. The initial movie, the one that you're going to see me review, grossed around $5 million. Do you want some comparison numbers? Teen Titans Go Pilot grossed $2 million. SpongeBob You're Fired grossed $5.19 million. The only season premiere of SpongeBob to have a bigger number than this was the first season, aired in 6.9 million homes alone. Mind you, all of this is US numbers. Why am I making a big deal out of this? This is the type of stuff you rarely see unless a blue moon is out. I mean, we did get Say Uncle, but that's rare. I'm talking about 2 very popular smashes coming together to make TV movies. 2 shows with a very different production style. I had a hard time coming up with a verdict, so to speak, on this movie. It does a lot right and a lot wrong. In the grand scheme of things, everything is mostly positive, but when looking deeper into it, there's a lot of head scratchers and flat out contrived scenes. Some portions are way too mean-spirited, even for these type of shows. But for every negative, there's a positive. Although they play to some cliches hard, like boys liking girls and that being yucky, they don't stay for too long, which is a relief. They also make sure to add subtle things about each show. A good reason this is my 25th episode to review is because this shows a great example of a concept that I want to get across to you. The show also did quite good on the technical aspect. Looking back on some of the scenes in Jimmy Neutron, it looks like a screensaver on my Windows XP. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, because this is going to take a while. I present to you the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. The special starts out on Timmy's side with his teacher, Mr. Crocker, telling the students about a science fair. This comes into play a few times throughout the special, in a way to emphasize that Timmy is lazy and to use some of the minor characters. Each character, sans Trixie and Tootie, who are never seen in the entire special, show off an invention related to the theme, transportation. Kind of weird Timmy forgets the woman that he likes and the woman that likes him in favor for a 3D girl. It's also very interesting that they don't use the minor characters as much in the initial special. One can make the argument that if the chemistry and flow with the core characters doesn't work, when adding more characters, it's just going to fail. However, it won't.
The only way you could even hope to be ready is if you received help from Fairy Godparents!
They ramp up Crocker to an 11 instead of his usual 7 when it comes to fairies. He seems to be obsessive over them, but rarely does he go out of his way like he did in this special. It's just another reason why you shouldn't always be turned to 10 when making your antagonists. If they already are up there, then you can't go further. Like for example, many people have been saying that Family Guy isn't shocking anymore. That is because most of their episodes crank the offense to 10, so there's really nothing to contrast. Crocker's performance is the best here I've ever seen, next to Abracatastrophe. So Timmy uses one of his classic diversion tricks and sneaks away. While hiding from Crocker, he receives his pen. This is the auto-poofer. When you press the button, you're automatically poofed back to Timmy's bedroom specifically. So to work on this project, he tries to poof to the best lab in Dimsdale, but it turns out to be AJ's lab. So instead, he poofs to the best lab of the universe. I guess that works, but then again, that says a lot about our universe seeing how Jimmy acts in the rest of the special. So we get an establishing scene of Jimmy, his robotic pet Goddard, and his tune-up machine.
As long as I'm here to monitor the molecular transmogrification, nothing can go wrong.
Transmogrification. Maybe this is the best lab of the universe. So after making the world's loudest poof, we all start to wonder how good Jimmy can hear. I'll also assume that Goddard was being shut down for updates. But then this happens.
I've got to approach this in the most scientific manner possible. Eeny, meeny, miny.
As much as I have to point out the noise he's making and the fact that Jimmy hears none of it, the special doesn't forget where it came from. Comedy. So we get our first collision between the two.
Hey! Who the heck are you? I'm Loopy, I'm Loopy. What are you doing?
It looks like Timmy is still loopy even after disabling the helmet. So Timmy goes full on douchebag mode, and personally, I can just chalk that up to Timmy being a naturally ignorant. But just listen to him.
Look, Baron Von Bighead, get off my back, which is now bulgy. Listen closely, Beaver Boy. Try to follow what I'm saying. Everything in this lab is mine.
This first impression comes back to bite Timmy in the butt later on. So they reference many items from the previous episode, from the cube, the cheese ray, the shrink ray, and the helmet. I do like that they don't forget where they came from or try to make this episode 100% away from the realm of possibility. Okay, and so I'm still trying to get this. So does this mean that this is canon or not canon? I have so much to learn. For acting like an arrogant idiot, Timmy slips on Jimmy's mini laser and falls into the hypercube. So Jimmy takes what he thinks is one of his mini lasers and accidentally poofs himself using Timmy's auto poofer back to Dimsdale. Then we get this bit of fan service.
Timmy is an average kid, but no one understands. From here to the stars, you'll buy candy bars. Rides a kid with a knack for invention. Excellent when you begin with fairly unpowered mind, a mechanical king.
The competition sets the mood for what is to come. So as Timmy creeps around Jimmy's lab, he tests out the gadgets. Remember, Timmy is changing this seat to cheese. Timmy walks over to Goddard and thinks he's a video game dog. Now, you're gonna hear the following phrases being used a lot: forced, contrived, and plot hole. I was thinking about putting a counter, but then we'd be here all day. So let's get the second forced convenience out of the way. Timmy is carrying a CD of the Decimator game. Earlier, he was playing it on a portable game. But don't worry, it seems like this doesn't matter, as the device that he's playing it can literally run anything. Also, do I have to mention that he was carrying this CD in his back pocket? The same pocket that he sat in a chair with? I wouldn't recommend trying this at home. Also, for some odd reason, every device in both universes seem to run just everything. What is it, C multiply multiply? I know it may seem like a nitpick, but it could have been simply hand-waved with Timmy finding the disc somewhere in Jimmy's lab. I know that also seems a bit forced, but it would have made sense. If I am going to point out the plot holes in bad Fairy Odd Parents episodes, then I might as well point them out in good episodes. Also, this super system not only runs the disc, but has this fancy logo. I need a computer like that. Carl and Sheen come immediately thinking that Timmy is Jimmy. They mess around with Timmy, and it shows a bit of character development. They like Timmy for what Jimmy is sometimes. Reckless. However, Timmy isn't 100% reckless, as we will later learn.
My name's not Jimmy, it's Timmy.
You scientifically altered the first letter of your name?
I'm scientifically giving a thumbs down to whoever made that lame line.
I love this new small-headed Jimmy.
And on that day, Timmy learned what is really Bulgy. So after messing around with the inventions, you know, the ones that Jimmy made, they all crash.
James Isaac Neutron! Look at this mess. Honestly, Jimmy.
My name is Timmy. Timmy! I think people in your dimension use J instead of a T. Jeez, what a twit.
It sounds like she's singing his name. Also, again, it's pretty convenient that the mother of the main character of the show doesn't realize her own son's voice, let alone the character. This would have played out better if Jimmy's mother was yelling at them for whatever and she asks where Jimmy went and looked off for him. It can even pull all of the Mighty Mom tropes that they later pull when Timmy hypnotizes her.
I don't know, new Jimmy. Maybe this stuff is too dangerous. Aren't you worried that we're tampering with forces we can never hope to control?
Don't you mean jampering?
Yes, because one robot, one bubble, one hoverboard, and a hypno beam is enough to destroy the entire universe. You feel proud about yourself, Carl? You guys do worse on an episodic basis.
I'm telling you, Susan B. Anthony could totally kick Madame Curie's butt. Not
Not if she was tag team with Harriet Tubman.
Not if Mahatma Gandhi and George Washington get kill streaks off of your weak squad. Like seriously, who talks like that? That is the type of conversations you see when kids get paid to talk in education commercials. Also, let us all remember, Cindy is smart. Cindy is also smart. Cindy, while being smart, is smart. This is gonna raise some questions.
Hey, that's not Neutron. The head's too small.
And that overbite could crack open a sea turtle. Hey! Let me guess. You must be one of Neutron's online 3D chess club pals. Great. Just what this town needs. Another big-brained chess geek.
Look, I said I was sorry.
Too late.
I was gonna rant on how Cindy's acting and how contrived the entire situation is, but if I got hit by a beaver on a hoverboard, he'd receive a welcoming pile driver to the concrete. Also, if Very Odd Parents puts the new hoverboards in their show, I'm going to scream. Also, I love how she said it was too late. Yeah, let's see how this scenario should have went then.
Just tag team with Harriet Tubman.
I apologize in advance. Yeah, Vortex, let's see you react the exact same way to that. So Timmy uses the hoverboard with Cindy's help.
Want to help me with my science project? You're asking for a girl's help? You actually value my opinion? Sorta.
The way they portray women in this special is a little on the nose. I'd also like to highlight the Envy in Libby. Just watch her in this following scene.
Looking good, small-headed Jimmy.
Cindy, Libby, have you met new small-headed Jimmy?
Like geez, get your own main character to date. Oh yeah, I forgot, half of the Nick lineup consists of main characters that aren't even human. Oh wait, that's right, you and Sheen were a potential thing. But for the rest of this special, Sheen is gonna act like all girls are icky, when he was the main one doing stuff like this. Not to play the semantics card, but isn't the term installing not downloading? I'm not gonna ask where the new parts came from for 5 reasons. 1. It works in the general direction of the plot. 2. Transmogrification. 3. Cartoons can be cartoony and over the top when it's funny and it works in the plot. 4. Jimmy said that the system could change the subatomic particles in Goddard, so this isn't impossible to do. 5. Look how flippin' awesome the character design looks. So Goddard is programmed to eliminate the target he locks onto. He locks on to Jimmy's dad. During the peak of that tension, they switch over to Jimmy's dimension. Jimmy, who lost a dimension, the depth one, understandably freaks out in the biggest way possible.
Where am I? I've got to get back to Goddard. If I'm not there to monitor his tune-up, the atomic transmutation could run wild.
My god, that connection is amazing. What is that? Multi-dimensional Wi-Fi? Hey Jimmy, what's your Wi-Fi password?
No manual, no fish. Fifth one, no fish.
Wow, you really need to drain the fishbowl to do that, huh? Even if there were fish, you practically poured the reason why they're alive on the ground and left them there. It seems like a nitpick until you realize that the water is back in the next scene, not too far from the one you just saw. Yes, in the next scenes, Jimmy loses all common sense. Like not remembering that he is not in his own room, let alone his own universe, along with other things like,
I'm Jimmy Neutron. I'm not familiar with how you greet people in this dimension, but okay.
Hi, Jimmy.
come on Jimmy, think. So Wanda explains to Cosmo and indirectly the audience that if Jimmy finds out that they are Timmy's godparents, they would have to go away forever. So the best way to introduce themselves is the following.
I'm Cosmo! And I'm Wanda! And we're...
Holograms, of course!
Hey, hands off the wife!
Whoa, Jimmy, how are you gonna tell Timmy not to touch your stuff? Then you go and touch Wanda. Also, why does Wanda seem to be enjoying this so much? By the way, they went to Hawaii. I skipped over it because it means nothing. I'm also skipping over all the jokes of Jimmy trying to dress up and avoid something that he procrastinated on for the same reason. So Jimmy learns that only Timmy can wish for things, which brings up the question of why they bothered to follow Jimmy around in the first place. Then again, it pushes the plot forward. Then Jimmy loses all logic and kills Cosmo.
Still have no idea what you're saying. Kent Quasar didn't choke cats!
You seem to be able to alter your appearance and locate...
Jimmy gets into a confrontation with Mr. Crocker. Jimmy, without prior knowledge, accidentally reveals the auto-proof for a pen and the magic that it possesses. I'd also like to point out that Chester points out what he thought was Timmy being Buzz Adams. However, the Buzz Adams character was for when Timmy visited the dentist. I don't know whether this is stupid for Chester thinking about that, creepy for Chester knowing about that, or intelligent considering Chester has dental work. A lot of jokes in this show are like that. Mean-spirited, but realistic. I don't know how to feel about many of these jokes. They all leave you to think that there's not much in either direction. As they center in on Crocker, you can see in the background that for the most part, each part that has a pinpoint for a fairy finding also has a point on the following map for restraining orders.
I must get that magic pen! Fairies!
Crocker's performance in this is amazing. So Jimmy, really hope I'm getting these right, gets Poof back to Timmy's room. Wanda pulls off the most realistic nails on the chalkboard impression.
Actually,
A game buddy!
So they actually have game buddies in both universes?
If this pen's technology is as adaptive as you guys are, I should be able to combine it with this so I can teleport anywhere!
Hey, let me grab my Apple Pencil and my Game Boy Color to get to a less contrived plot. This is just another example of how does that work out? Teleport now, teleport now, teleport. So Crocker finds out about the infamous fairy world. Jimmy, for the most part, did not know, but what he did know was that Cosmo and Wanda were not to be found out. He learned this in the establishing shot of the school. So back in Jimmy's world, Cindy and Timmy are on a date. Notice how Cindy is trying to justify everything Timmy says into somehow words above logic. Also, this was a repeated take. Know how I know? In a few scenes, the straw disappears on Timmy's side.
Incredible!
It had a big head!
What are you talking about? Come see for yourself!
Well, remember when Jimmy's dad was being antagonized by a robot dog? Well, now he's about to kill him.
Call my mom! Me!
So, I'll see you guys later. Me and Cindy are gonna try out some more science projects. Ready, Cindy?
So wait, you're gonna let Jimmy's dad die over something you did? Wait! Jimmy's dad is gonna die over a CD disc that should have been broken in half when Timmy sat on it?
Jimmy's gone, new Jimmy's useless, and Cindy's acting like a complete snob. I mean, what's up with that?
I'm sorry, who was the one envious and suspicious over Timmy? I mean, yes, to the audience, Timmy is why Jimmy's dad is being bonked over the head. But they don't know that. All they know is that Timmy is friends with Jimmy. Doesn't Libby have, like, other friends? And doesn't Sheen like Libby? So now we get to this scene. I'd like to talk a little bit about this scene. If I ever do that next Timmy Power Hour, which I'm really not going to be doing anytime soon, then this following scene is crucial to that. So Cindy is in love with Timmy only for the fact that he's smart. So far, he did nothing on the hoverboard but crash into them. He installed a lethal program on an adaptable robot dog. He didn't specifically say anything smart. All he did was feed her ego. It didn't work when Peggy Hill did it, and it certainly doesn't work here. Cindy has been shown in other episodes to like Nick. Nick is not smart. Nick is perceived as hot. Timmy is not smart. And he is also not perceived as hot. Timmy just feeds her own ego and goes along with whatever she wants. Also, it's been a day. What could they have possibly do to have the experience to take it to the next level? No, really, you think I'm kidding.
Timmy, I think we may be ready to take our relationship to the next level.
You mean, like, spin the bottle?
No, mind phone. I want to hear your deepest, most personal thoughts.
First of all, not all smart people have a stream of smart thoughts. 2, Timmy is not, nor is he ever, been smart. 3, you guys left a person to die, willingly. I don't care if you're smart, that's just wrong. So the Decimator destroys a few things, but here's the scene that I want you to see. Pay really close attention, I really want you to notice something.
Players 4, 5, and 6, your future is cancelled!
Mind you, he let the driver of the car go because the truck was the target, not the driver. Now his target is specifically Carl, Sheen, and Libby. Jay, obviously Cindy likes Timmy because he was feeding her ego. So you're wrong, it isn't just because she thinks he's smart.
You'd still like me even if I weren't smart, wouldn't you?
Of course not. But it's irrelevant because you're the smartest, most sensitive, most honest guy I've ever met.
So the crew catch up with the Loverbirds. I want you to notice how the Decimator ended up attacking Timmy and Cindy, who are not targeted players. I want you to notice that they keep showing close-ups of Goddard's mouth, showing that there is no way that the fire could be spawning out of his mouth. However, there's probably some mechanism that can hand wave this. Also, the way he got bit, he should not have a head. Why not just eat him whole? Finally, Goddard was programmed to attack whoever he locked onto. Keywords, programmed, as in without human deviation, and locked on, as in the Decimator should know the pattern that he needs. This is a plot hole. You could make the argument that I don't know exactly what the code is, but that doesn't explain why he followed Jimmy's dad to the city without stopping. Also, remember when Timmy turned Jimmy's computer chair into cheese? Jimmy didn't change it back. He got poofed when that happened. Jimmy's climax is full of so much plot holes, which will make the conclusion very hard to explain. So yes, Timmy does get out of Goddard for an above average climax. If they used Mighty Mom in it somehow, it would have made a full circle epic finish, but this works too. In fact, just off the top of my head, their plan fails and at the last minute, Mighty Mom comes and sprays liquid on Goddard's more sensitive areas. And no, not like that. What I mean is parts of his body that would short circuit if it was wet. Like, never mind. So Cindy saves the day, Timmy gets a kiss, and Goddard is back to normal. Jimmy calls in on his impressive Wi-Fi. By the way, I got the password. It's GottaBlast6022. While they talk, Timmy sees that Jimmy is in Fairy World. Since Jimmy was taken to Fairy World by Crocker, Timmy freaks out. Here's another forced moment. After letting Crocker go on a ramble, by the way, yes, you should be hearing him and making the point. After letting Crocker go on a rant, when he poofs away, that is when the fairies decided to tame him. That is when they actually try to take him down when he's not powerful. Also, they let him take this tour. I mean, they don't do anything to stop him after he gets to Fairy World. I mean, yeah, it's in Fairy World. We give up. That's it. I mean, it's not like you guys have wands, or an army, or Jorgen von Strangle. Of all the good points I make about Crocker, he's the only person who I think is played very, very good. Jimmy and Timmy are way too ignorant for different reasons. Cindy is unrealistic. Libby is envious. Carl, AJ, Francis, and Sheen are watered-down idiots. Jimmy's mom is a ramped-up idiot turned into a throwaway joke. Cosmo, Jimmy's dad, and Wanda are passive time wasters. The minor characters, they get a pass. But from what I say, it isn't 100% bad, because the characters aren't always really bad. Carl and Sheen do connect the plot from the beginning. AJ does keep the very loose but important gag about the science fair afloat. And Timmy does help in the Jimmy Neutron side of the climax. I could go on, but does the positives outweigh the negatives? We'll find out towards the end.
You brought Mr. Crocker to Fairy World? What kind of genius are you?
You scrambled my dog's atoms and let it grow in my lab? What kind of genius are you?
The movie is riddled with things like this. Mind you, this was 2004.
Back off, Nerdtron. Timmy here has already saved the day and saved your dog in half the time you would have.
Well, to be honest, it was a team effort, but then again, you're not supposed to know about his stupidity until later on in the movie series.
Look, I need you to...
Like I care about what you need. As long as my dog's okay, we're done.
Also, the way that I cannot be silent about Timmy and Cindy letting Hugh's fate be determined by a killer dog, I cannot be silent about Jimmy letting Crocker spaz out in Fairy World. I mean, sometimes there's a rainbow, but I'm sure it isn't accessible to any human. So let's go over this scenario, Jimmy. What happens when Fairy World gets taken over by Crocker? Essentially, you're stuck in a world where a mentally disturbed creature is bound on making the world his kingdom by force. Cosmo and Wanda will have their power source taken away. You will have no way to get off the planet. Even if you are in a computer simulation, you should at least think about this logically. Whatever Crocker had is your way out. You think he's just gonna give you the only source that can stop him? No way. So now you're stuck. Timmy's the new you, and Cosmo and Wanda suffer from having their entire concept of the show literally shut down.
And over there is the Fairy Armory, where we store every magical fairy weapon known to fairies. It's the only place in Fairy World that, in case of an emergency, has its own power supply.
So essentially all of that security outside and no security inside. It would have been so much more exciting if Crocker had to overcome an obstacle to get to the weapon, so blah blah blah, the wand goes down.
Good luck with your new king!
Wait! Fudgehead! You can't leave us! Crocker's gonna...
Zap the memory? Wipe the C drive? So what? You're computer programs. You're not really real.
I'm pretty sure if I put a cap in Goddard's head, Jimmy would cry. What Jimmy is going through is what many cartoon geniuses go through. The complete lack of emotional intelligence. Ironic, isn't it? He doesn't understand the way he feels about Goddard, who at the end of the day is not a real being but a programmed dog, is the same way Timmy feels about his fairies, which aren't real beings but magical, and formerly, temporary creatures. I'm not sure why they painted Jimmy this way. He's a child and therefore would care just as much about his imagination as Timmy would. They painted Jimmy like he's just some 50-year-old retiree who wants to chill in a pool chair sipping lemonade for the rest of his days. If Jimmy had no imagination, then how did he make all these gadgets? At the end of the day, what connected us to Jimmy was that he's a kid. But right now, he's just being blatantly ignorant. No, that's not good enough. I can think of something better. Hold up, just give me a second, 1 second. Oh yeah. He's being inconsistently idiotic. Remember how he entered the 2D universe without knowing a single thing and now he's walking around like he knows the entire universe like the periodic table? You'd think he'd listen to anyone there, being as they know much more about the universe than him. So Timmy apologizes and Jimmy comes up with a plan. They have a nice climax and Jimmy ends up beating Crocker with an unplugged cord. So Jorgen ends up destroying Crocker as a canine. During this time, Jimmy and Timmy end up talking. They introduce themselves for the first time.
Jimmy Neutron, boy genius.
Timmy Turner! Boy!
Timmy says he really isn't a genius, and they end up with Jimmy helping Timmy. Alright, so here's a few things I want to end with. Crocker had the best performance. My favorite character, however, during all of this would have to be Timmy. The way he transformed during the entire movie is refreshing to say the least. My least favorite character was Jimmy's mom. She had nothing to do with the plot other than being padding in a small roadblock. The worst performance, however, would have to go to Libby. She did nothing but complain and be unsupportive. This was a mixed movie. I do see all of the mistakes that are in it, but like I said before, do the positives outweigh the negatives? No, not at all. This is leaning on the bad side, but I still love this movie. It was a decent start, but I can appreciate all the work that went into it. I can appreciate at least having concrete answers to what would happen if these characters reacted for the most part. The comedy may be flat, but the action isn't bad. I can respect the references and the visuals were pretty good. So yes, I like this movie, but this movie is not by any means great. If anything, this is just a fan project, something for us during the peak. I can appreciate it because although it did seem like it pandered a little bit and pushed some lines, at the end of the day, I could fully say that this was a power hour well spent. So that was the review of the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, my 25th special. I've been asked if I was doing TV movies and this was my first one. I wanted this to be my first one. If you got this far, thank you for getting this far. This is the longest review I've done, I guarantee it. As always, I hope your time was well spent, and Alpha out. Looking back on some of the scenes in Jimmy Neutron, it looks like a screenshot. So they reference many items from previous episodes from the Cube, the Cheese Ray, the Shrink Way, for acting like an arrogant idiot. So Timmy takes what he thinks is one of his mini lasers and accidentally poofs himself to Timmy's auto poofer. Really, he did? Timmy walks over to Goddard and sees that he's a video game dog. Timmy walks over to Goddard and thinks. This is how I write my scripts. Thinks. I know it may seem like a nitpick. I know it may seem like a nitpick, but it could have been simply hand-waved with Timmy finding the disc somewhere in Timmy's lab. In Timmy's lab. They mess around with Jimmy. Sometimes. What are you gonna sing? Everything? Nah, I probably shouldn't. This would have played out better if Jimmy's mother... I was gonna rail on how Cindy is acting and how contrived I was also gonna rail on Cindy... Maybe I should change that word right there. That word is probably not a good word to use. I'm 18. 4. Jimmy said that the system can change this... 4. Jimmy said that the... He locks on to Timmy's dad. Wow, you really need to drain the bowl of fish? The bowl of fish? Well, remember when Timmy's... And these are knuckles cracking. Even if you are in a computer situation... But right now he's being blatant... But Crocker came from outside the you-know-what. I do see that my stomach is growling. He's a child and therefore would care just as much about his imagination and toys as Jimmy would.